And away we go. It's the DFS Early presented by Awesemo.com, brought to you in part by Yahoo DFS. Check out their offerings over on Yahoo Sports. They have a ton of baseball and, of course, football just around the corner. Dan Strafford. It's not good when you can't pronounce your own name, but Dan Strafford and Adam Scher. I can pronounce his name correctly. Ship my money, DFS. Adam, how the hell are you doing?
Doing good. Excited to be doing a podcast with you. I feel like we haven't done one together in a really long time.
It's been a while. And for those of you who had to listen, there was a time probably about a month ago where EMAC agreed to fill in for Laufey and then proceeded to go to sleep and not do the podcast with me. Just completely forgot about it. But like I am him. I don't have his cell phone number, so I G-chatted. I DM'd him on Slack. Nothing. Find out the next morning that he forgot all about it. So last night I switched with EMAC for tonight because I had my daughter's second birthday yesterday, and my mother was in town, so I said, not going to record. And it turns out Chris Randone's power goes out, and EMAC fittingly said, "It's just karma getting back at me, Dan, for standing you up that time." So you got to listen to EMAC on his own. Adam and I are here. I'll be with you again Wednesday morning. And again, Friday and Saturday morning, I'm filling in for Adam as he goes to the Orioles game on Friday night. And then you get Adam and EMAC on Thursday morning again. And then again, I fill in on Saturday. So that's the podcasting schedule for the rest of the week. Glad to be here. 15 games as it often is on Tuesday nights. And Adam, I made the joke before we started recording. And there are pitchers on the slate. There are always pitchers to play. We're all playing from the same hand, blah, 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 blah. But Lance Lynn is our most expensive pitcher in Texas at 11-2 on a day that I'm sure is going to be hot. The ball is going to be juiced as it always is. 11-2 for Lynn. And then Walker Buehler is at 10-2 against Philadelphia. And we've seen what's happened there tonight for the Los Angeles Dodgers blowing up on Zach Eflin. Not surprising there. Two pitchers above 10K. Overall thoughts on the pitching slate and on these two most expensive arms?
Lynn's been really, really good this year, but that's a price point where it'll probably be pretty difficult to really get to him. Walker Buehler is probably like the most expensive pitcher that I'll really get any exposure to. Philadelphia, a pretty middle-of-the-road matchup. It's a scary park for power, but Buehler is just, a really good pitcher, and he really shouldn't be $1,000 less expensive than Lynn. He should be much more than $700 more expensive than Jordan Yamamoto. So I think that he's the guy that'll really kind of jump out from that top range.
Yeah, as you said, Phillies are very much middle of the road against righties. You can name bats here that should have better numbers on the season than they've had against right-handers, but they're a 22.8% K percentage, 10% on the walk rate, a WRC plus, right around there, right at 99, which is middle of the pack, if not slightly above ISO 191. So all numbers that there's upside for these bats, but Buehler has a bit of upside with the strikeout potential. Yamamoto, as you mentioned, is 95. Andrew Heaney at 93. Logan Allen is in Miami for San Diego. He's 9,200. This is a guy that when he first came up, I did a bit of research on Adam. He's a lesser prospect from San Diego, mainly because they had everyone else in their rotation already with Paddock and Lucchesi and Strom and down the line. So not surprising they had to dip even further here. But are any of these 9K options interesting to you? You have Dylan Cease, Pineda, Allen, Heaney, and Yamamoto. Anybody stand out, or is this going to be a day where because of Coors Field, because of the options we have, that we're going to go pretty cheap at pitching?
Cease probably stands out the most to me out of that group. It's not a great matchup with Kansas City, another middle of the road matchup, but he has really good stuff. He threw 101 pitches in his first major league start. He is, I think, the White Sox #1 prospect. If not, he's one of them. And so you at least get some upside there. I mean, you talk about like Yamamoto, who's been good in the majors, but I don't buy into it. Logan Allen, who has been up and down, both in pretty favorable matchups, but they're priced for those matchups. Jordan Yamamoto wouldn't be 9,500 based on his AA stats, much less what we expect him to do in the major leagues. Logan Allen facing the Marlins in a really good pitcher's park, but that's not a great strikeout matchup against that lineup, and he's not a great strikeout pitcher. You're paying up for that. I'd rather just kind of take a chance on Cease out of this entire group because I think he has the best stuff. I think he has the highest ceiling.
Cease was coming into the season for MLB.com, the number 3 prospect, number 2 pitcher. I forgot they still had Michael Kopech down
Yeah.
there in AAA. So Cease, as the season went on, outperforming there and getting the call. But they got was that all for Adam Eaton too? It wasn't Kopech and Giolito, right? It was 2 separate trades.
Yeah, so the Adam Eaton trade was Giolito, Reynaldo Lopez, and Dane Dunning.
That's right.
And then the sale trade was Yohan Moncada and Michael Kopech.
Oh, right. Kopech was Red Sox.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, and then he's out until next year with Tommy John.
Right. That's a hell of a haul. I know they haven't been all that competitive, but that's some nice turnaround there on 2. I mean, Sale's obviously an ace, but Eaton's, even at the time, I think was very questionable to give up that many pieces for him.
Cease was the Quintana trade.
Wow.
So that was another great Dylan Cease and Eloy Jimenez for Jose Quintana.
I don't think the White Sox GM gets enough credit because they're not doing it at the major league level yet. But that's all. Yeah. Those are 3 really impressive trades, especially, hindsight, results, whatever. You look at it and see how Quintana has struggled since being dealt, and you have the injuries with Adam Eaton. But nonetheless, good work there. Anybody else here? Pineda against the Mets at 9,200. I just can't trust Pineda with the walks we've seen over his career. Heaney against Houston. Angels Park is the stadium there is more of a homer park. I know Heaney's been pretty solid this year, but that seems like a bad spot for him. Or are we moving down into the 8K range at this point?
Yeah, I'm looking to move down to the 8K range. I mean, those guys, he's got some talent, but even he's priced up higher than he really should be, and he's got a brutal matchup. We talked about Yamamoto and Allen, and Pineda's another one who it's a mediocre matchup against the Mets. He's not that good of a pitcher. I really have any idea why he's 9,200.
Yeah, I can't say I do either, but we'll keep an eye on some of these numbers as we roll through and we get into the mid-tier or the upper mid-tier, as it were. It's DeSclafani against the Cubs. Sabathia against Tampa Bay. Brandon Woodruff against Atlanta. Wilson against the Milwaukee Brewers in Milwaukee at 8,500. Derek Carty's favorite pitcher, Andrew Kashner, is at 8,300. Marco Gonzalez, and then Colin McHugh is he serving as an opener here? Yeah, so that seems to be, right? He'll be the opener, and then I don't know who their long man is as of yet. I haven't seen that in a breakdown, but I'll take a look while Adam talks about the top end. DeSclafani, Sabathia, Woodruff. Any interest, or is this just sort of checking boxes and depending on exposures, how many percentage points you might get of some of these guys?
It's really weird pricing on this slate. Like, none of these guys are super appealing. Woodruff would be the one that I'm the most interested in just because he's far and away a better pitcher than DeSclafani, Sabathia, Wilson, Kashner. He's the best pitcher on the slate other than Buehler and maybe Lynn. And you're getting him at a reasonable price tag. It's a tough matchup against Atlanta, though. So that, makes me like him a little bit less. But for the season, a 28.8% strikeout percentage, 3.33 xFIP. The xFIP is actually the best on the entire slate. So you are getting a bit of a discount on Woodruff. I'm sure I will get to him in some tournaments. But beyond that, I mean, I don't want to pay $9K for close to $9K for DeSclafani or Sabathia. Wilson's in a tough matchup against Milwaukee. Kashner, I guess, just got a $2,000 price boost because now he's on the Red Sox. Yeah. I don't really know what that's about. Marco Gonzalez doesn't get strikeouts. Colin McHugh's opening. It's just kind of Woodruff and nothing.
Yep, the Toronto Blue Jays on the year have a 24.3% K percentage against righties and 90 WRC plus, ISO 190, so creeping up to respectable at that point. But there's not a ton of reason for Kashner's price tag to jump that much, other than your point of has a different jersey, different laundry now, and that could be, I guess, some reasoning from a DraftKings perspective. I will point out over on FanDuel, it's Buehler, Lynn, Woodruff is your third most expensive at 9,600. Yamamoto, Pineda, Logan Allen, CC, Andrew Kashner at 8K, and Dylan Cease is 6,700 on FanDuel, one of the cheaper options in the mid-tier for FanDuel fans out there. If you're playing, to point out Adam's take on Cease on DraftKings, I would assume that price point intrigues you even a little bit more, though I know you don't play a ton on FanDuel.
Anything lower would be more beneficial. But yeah, I mean, 6,700, that really jumps out.
All right, let's continue on. We get our ballerino, I should say, to say it correctly. Daniel Megden at 7,800. Jalen Beeks is the long reliever, as we currently project at 7,700 on DK. Alex Young, Jack Flaherty gets Pittsburgh in St. Louis at 7,400. Austin Voth is at 7,200, and then Zach Plesac rounds out our 7K range. These are a bunch of, Beeks we've had upside. The Yankees clearly have a ton of righty power. We know that. Megden in the past has been serviceable in the right matchup. Flaherty has flashed upside. Austin Voth has some pedigree down there in the minors for Washington. And then Plesac has, again, been somebody that's done just enough for the Cleveland Indians to stay in the rotation over about, 5 or so weeks, make that 6 potentially. But the last 2 times out, Plesac's been pretty terrible against the Orioles and Kansas City, respectively. The walks have crept up. The strikeouts have come down. Ground balls have come down as well. Anybody in the 7K range at least seem like they're priced appropriately or in a range where you might start to consider them?
Yeah, there's a couple guys here, or 3 guys here at least, that I would start to consider because like we talked about all those guys at the top, and I think the vast majority of them are overpriced. So if I'm going to roster a guy that I'm not really in love with, I'd rather be doing it in this price range. Jack Flaherty would be the first one. He has a tough strikeout matchup against the Pirates, who as a team just have one of the lowest strikeout percentages in baseball. Actually, the lowest strikeout percentage other than the Angels and the Astros against right-handed pitching. And then on top of that, their projected lineup has 5 lefties, but they're all in the top 6. So Flaherty this year has about a 30% strikeout percentage against right-handed hitters. It's down around 20% against lefties. So just overall a really unappealing spot against Pittsburgh, but a reasonable price tag on him. Austin Voth, not a particularly good pitcher, but his strikeout numbers did tick up at AAA this year, and he gets a really favorable matchup against the Orioles. And then Zach Plesac with one of the more favorable matchups as well, going against the Tigers. Detroit not as right-handed heavy as they have been for most of the season, but still not a lot of good hitters. Plesac, pretty decent minor league numbers, was doing pretty well in the majors, minus those last 2 outings. But I think that where you have, like a Yamamoto is 9,500 against San Diego, or Plesac 7K against Detroit, it's just very, very similar projections, I think, and you're getting a massive discount on Plesac because he's coming off of 2 bad starts.
All right, let's continue on here, keeping an eye across different sites as well if anything stands out. But now we get into a fun range of names that I would think the casual fan may have never heard of. You have Wogesbach. I think I pronounced that correctly. I'm going to double check over on Baseball Reference. I actually checked before we started recording because you have Wojciechowski, Wogesbach, and there was one other name on this slate that I knew was going to tie me up. Yamamoto. No, Yamamoto always kills me. I always add an extra MA. I don't know why, but it's much like Arenado. Nolan Arenado, I used to always say Nolan Arendondo. And I don't know why. I just added in and I couldn't get it out of my brain. But anyway, we get Toronto at Boston. I don't care how talented you are. This Red Sox lineup, you would have to be down under 5K. Agrizal against St. Louis. Alec Mills for the Cubs seems to be in line for the start here. He'll be called up, against Cincinnati. Jesse Rogers of ESPN.com reports Cole Hamels out on the oblique strain. So 4.73 ERA in 80 innings. I'll take a look at his minor league numbers as Adam talks here. But you do get some names we know down here. Matz and Velasquez. Lambert's at Colorado. We've talked about him a bit. Drew Pomerantz is in Colorado. That should be a fun start. But this 7K below, we can go all the way to the bottom. Then we'll talk some offense before we go. Does someone like Vince Velasquez creep in here because of K upside, or is this Dodgers lineup just way too damn potent? What we've seen on Monday night, anybody here sub 7K that you think might end up sneaking into some lineups?
This slate just gets uglier and uglier. I mean,
really does.
Yeah, like I rostered a bunch of Wagyu against Boston last time out. He was 4K, and now he's 6,800, so I'm not looking there. Agrizal against St. Louis is whatever. I mean, the Cardinals aren't very good right now. They're missing Ozuna. They're missing Molina. So you can certainly make a case for him. Alec Mills, pretty not good. 22% strikeout percentage. At AAA, only a 39% ground ball percentage. So not like you have a lot of redeeming qualities there. Velasquez and Matz both in brutal matchups against the Dodgers and the Twins, respectively. Wojciechowski's terrible and has a bad matchup against the Nats. You could, I guess, make an argument for Peter Lambert just based on the fact the Giants aren't very good, but I really just don't have interest in rostering pitchers in cores because, this season, because now on top of cores being cores, you have the juice ball as well. It just makes it impossible. I don't like Glenn Sparkman, maybe. Like, he's facing the White Sox. The White Sox have the highest strikeout percentage against right-handed pitching. He isn't a strikeout pitcher, but he'll throw around 100 pitches as long as he doesn't get hit too hard. He's only 4,300. I honestly, I think I would just take the 4,300, the savings there, over basically anyone below Plesac.
I like to use K- walk ratio as just a number to look at for pitchers. Do you know Glenn Sparkman's K- walk ratio on the year?
It has to be awful.
It's 6.8%. And
That's thing is,
but the thing is, his walk percentage is just 8.5. His K percentage, 15.3%. To your point, he doesn't strike anybody out. He really doesn't strike anybody out. You do have Pomerantz at 6.4%. And our good buddy Andrew Kashner is the worst of our pitchers. Well, Bryce Wilson does have a 0% because you're dealing with is this a first start, right? Or am I?
No, he's made a couple.
I'm mixing up my Wilsons, I think, at this point. But you do have some pitchers here with lower numbers, and it's Pomerantz, Carpenter. You have Carpenter for Detroit. This is just all bad. Like, this is all really bad at this end. So let's talk offenses here, just to give people an early idea of where they might be looking for stacks or what they might understand for some bats that should be involved in some lineup building. We've made mention of a number of pitchers. We're not comfortable with their price points, but where are you going first and foremost for stacks? Colorado, San Francisco, I'm sure will be pretty popular. Coors Field will do that. But do you go back to the Dodgers here against Vince Velasquez? Do you like the Twins against Matz? What do you have for some of your top offenses on this slate?
Yeah, I mean, I like pretty much everything you just said. Lambert hasn't been good since being called up. The Giants, of course, aren't good either. But on the other side, Pomeranz getting a huge park downgrade. He really benefits from pitching in San Francisco. I think he's a pretty, middle of the road pitcher overall. But this is about as bad as it's going to get. So, obviously, like both of those spots, the Dodgers have, a ton of good fastball hitters facing Velasquez. So that's a good spot. Minnesota, tons of power, some speed that can take advantage of Matz as well. And then also Washington, I think, definitely worth looking at. In Baltimore, it's been hot and humid here for a really long time now, so I expect it'll be the same for this game. And, Wojciechowski, a pitcher who really just brings nothing to the table. The Orioles bullpen behind him is pretty much a gas can as well. So a lot of good hitting spots here.
For those of you who want to get into some revenge narrative, you could always talk about Drew Pomeranz returning to Coors Field.
Oh, yeah.
He came up as a Rocky. Those days long gone. We can look into his splits from 2013 at home. I'm sure that will be really pertinent to the conversation at some point on Tuesday. I kid because I love. But if you had to guess, and I don't know if you've looked at this recently, how old is Drew Pomeranz?
I think he's like my age, like 29.
He's 30. He's 30 years old, but right in line. He's just felt like he's been around forever. Like, he's one of those names that I just feel like I've been talking about for way too long. And here he is.
Wasn't he part of the Ubaldo Jimenez trade?
I feel like that's right. I would have to check. They have transactions over on Baseball Reference. Oh, and I wanted to look up. Who was I looking up? I want to make sure I'm pronouncing names correctly here on the podcast. Otherwise, Dave would disown me from. Let's just do this while we're here. I think he was. I'll look that up after we're done, not to make people listen to me Google shit. But they don't even have his name on here. What did I look up? Wogesback. Interesting. They don't even have his name pronunciation, which makes me believe they think it's easier than it actually is to say his name.
Oh, yeah. Dave tried to find that the other day and couldn't find it.
Yeah, that's funny. I'll have to see where I found it. I Googled it and I got it from somewhere. It must have been in an article somewhere, somebody sounding it out for me.
Palm was part of the Jimenez trade too.
Yeah. So
Yep.
there it is. Ubaldo Jimenez. Now that is a fun name. What's your thoughts on the Herman Marquez victory laps over there on Twitter?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to victory lap one thing 5 different times, you should probably be a little more transparent in the things you get wrong. But that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Fantastic. Nonetheless, what I need to see more of is victory laps of victory laps. I want people to get so meta about it that they're going to start victory lapping that there are victory laps happening. I think that's my shtick now. I'm gonna start predicting victory laps happening, and then when they happen, we'll take victory laps for them. Adam, as always, find over on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. Obviously, you're playing the same volume you always play. That's how you go about playing DFS professionally. You're not changing things because the slate sucks or slate's better than you think it might be. Any different approach to this one, having gone through it here in discussion? Anything you'd see that makes you think you might pivot one way or another against how you typically build lineups? Or is this simply going to be, again, trying to find the best options, the best leverage where you can, and play with ownership that we have projected over there on awesemo.com?
The things that change the most for me slate to slate is that I'll tend to, on some slates, it just kind of suits itself for me to be more concentrated on pitching and spread out it amongst hitters. And other slates, I'll look to spread out more at pitching and have, be a little bit heavier on a few different stacks. This is a slate where, as of right now, I fully expect to be very, very concentrated on pitching because there's only a few guys that I remotely have interest in. And then just, look to really spread out as much as I can across all these stacks that I really like.
As I said, find Adam over on Twitter. If you are an Awesemo member, Adam and all the crew all have office hours where they get into a Slack channel and answer questions. So you can always head on over there by using the promo code EarlyBird. That gets you in for 50% off the first month, and then you pay from there. But I think it's well worth the time now with baseball season upon us and in full swing, and then NFL right around the corner. There's lots of content coming your way over at awesemo.com, so you don't want to miss out on that. If you just want to watch the shows, you want to listen to the podcast, you can do that on iTunes, you can do it on Stitcher, wherever you listen to podcasts, but you can also do so over on YouTube. And I ask you to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, like the videos, leave comments. Always like to read the comments, even when they're not so kind. I like reading them. I'm one of those people. But we appreciate everybody both on the free side and the Awesemo Plus side. If you are trying to become a member of awesemo.com, you get lots of access to Adam and Dave and, of course, Alex and Josh and Jake and the whole crew on down the line. So be sure to sign up today. With that said, you can find me on Twitter at Dan Strafford. I'll be back with Dave tomorrow morning. Then you get EMAC, you get Adam on Thursday, myself and Dave on Friday, EMAC and myself on Saturday. So a lot of Dan Strafford heading your way. So buckle up, kids. It's going to be fun. With that said, wish you the best of luck on Tuesday's slate. See you back here on the DFS Early Bird presented by awesemo.com.